Greetings, this is Carlos Alea from Algo Vista. Today, I have Peter Rodriguez here, which I'd like to extend a warm welcome. Thank you for being here today, Peter.
Thank you.
Can you share a little bit about your role and how it fits into the bigger picture at your current business?
So currently I'm the broker owner of Vector Property Group. So obviously I handle everything on the back end and in terms of growing the business, recruiting agents, getting out into the public and things like that.
All right. Excellent. What major shift are you seeing in your industry right now?
So right now, I mean, ever since last year, I would say we've seen a major shift on how agents and sellers both approach selling overall. Since the NAR settlements combined with the overage of income that we have here, or not income, excuse me, but inventory, here in Central Florida and the Tri-County area, we have like 12,000 homes for sale currently. So it's becoming a real challenge in terms of standing out, if you will, if you don't have that right representation, the right idea as to how you're going to present your property. So I feel like those are some of the things that I've seen, in terms of being adjusted over the past year and a half, 2 years, is the increasing inventory, having to stand out more. Consumers understanding more so what it means with an NAR settlement, what it actually means for them. I feel like a lot of consumers are still confused about that. So really, I just feel a general shift towards a need for education more so than just the flashiness that a lot of agents have in order to educate the consumer as to what the best way to sell or buy is in today's market.
I know I reached out to you as far as what small firms, realtors do differently, lessons in buyer's trust. So as you've mentioned, you do feel that providing education for the public overall will definitely close that gap in getting and acquiring that buyer's trust in order so they're able to make a much more informed decision.
Sure. So when it comes to consumers, for me, I feel consumers want one of a few things. I think a lot of agents think that consumers want everything possibly that they can imagine packaged into this service for this client. But in reality, what consumers are really looking for, especially in today's market, I would say is superior service. That's one big thing. So a lot of agents will talk about being, the best agent out there. I answer my phone, I go to listing appointments and things of that nature. Really what the consumer wants is to feel safe in the process. They want to make sure that they're going to be taken care of through that superior service during the duration of the listing or the sales or whatever the case is. And I feel like that is going to be paramount moving forward, because part of that service also includes being able to deliver accurate information to these people. The people that are selling homes that are their biggest investments of their lives, and also the ones that are buying homes that are their biggest investments of their lives, probably the biggest they'll ever make. I think it's extremely important to make sure that we're there from a place of service, but authentic service. And I think that matters, because a lot of things that we were supposed to talk about big brokerages, essentially big brokerages versus smaller brokerages. I feel that a lot of the bigger brokerages, and not all of them, I certainly don't speak for all of them, but a lot of times the agents that are working with those brokerages, they get consumed by the bureaucracy of what they can and cannot do due to the brand image, right? How can they show up for their client while at the same time maintain that brand image, because otherwise what's going to happen to them in their brokerage? And I feel that consumers are really, really focusing on getting that true service, but also having the authentic connection and also getting accurate information, because that's really what's going to drive the sale, the relationship, and overall what's going to happen with that property, whatever that is. Commercial, residential, doesn't really matter.
Yeah, so true. Actually, just before I had you on the call today, I spoke with another realtor, and there seemed to be a very common theme with the rise of big brokerage, whether it is due to the changes of the economy or geopolitical situations or whatever the case might be. But yes, it sounds like you're talking about quality over quantity. And obviously when it comes out to the big brokerage, they're looking for numbers and there's a price to pay, and that is quality. And that obviously there's going to be some clients or some potential buyers in there. They're going to be lost within the crevices because they're not being heard. And obviously that's where folks such as yourself, the services will be so much more valuable, because you're able to provide that value that it is that you're looking for. And definitely, being able to deliver at the end of the day.
Yeah, I feel that overall, I think it all comes down to trust and reliability. And that's really what we're in the industry of. I believe we're a people business, and we rely on trust as a foundation to be able to build our own businesses, but also help these people that need help in the transacting of real estate. And I think you mentioned the big brokerages. Aside from the brand image and everything else, it's also what that agent puts out as messaging in terms of that brokerage as well, because that matters. So for example, I'm not going to mention any names of brokerages, but there's a couple brokerages out there that focus on recruiting, heavily on recruiting for for obvious reasons, whether it's rev share or whatever it is. And I feel that the consumer also sees that. And if that message is being put out, and then that agent's messaging on social, on their marketing, on their print art marketing, whatever it is talking about, hey, I'm going to help you with this. But then at the same time, on the flip side of that coin, all they care about is getting as many agents as they can under their belt so they can retire and be team leaders as opposed to real producers being there for their clients. Their clients see that. And I think a lot of a big mistake that a lot of people are making, a lot of brokerages and agents themselves, is that with this thing, with this phone, I mean, honestly, anything and everything can be found out at the touch of a button. And most nothing is private anymore. Social media posts, people post things on social media that are meant to be private, and it's all over the place. So if you think you're going to talk about a certain aspect of your brokerage or a certain deal that happened, and the way you talk about how that client was and how much of a pain in the rear end they were, other people are going to see that. And that base foundation of trust is eroded before you even meet them. And I think that's a big problem. I'm not saying that everybody's perfect, and I'm definitely not saying that only big brokerages do this. I think small brokerages do it as well. Small agents do it as well in terms of newer agents. But at the same time, I think that matters so very much for big and small brokerages, because moving forward, we're not just competing against other agents. We're not just competing against the iBuyers. We're competing against AI as well. And I think AI is a big topic in real estate that a lot of people, they touch on by means of like, hey, you can use this AI ISA to call this person or whatever the case is. But people want true connection. And that's not going to come from automating everything. Like, the agent still has to be involved to establish that trust. But then how can we use AI? We can use AI in ways to benefit the consumer by really truly showing them, hey, this is how we can employ this AI in order to make your sale better, in order to double check, this report, this inspection report, let's put it in the eye and see what it comes up with in terms of the big major pain points, what can be more expensive to fix or what not, as opposed to replacing yourself altogether. And I think, again, it all comes down to that foundation of trust that I feel we've lost over time. But not just that, I'm not sure if you heard about this, but in South America or Central America, excuse me if I have it incorrect, but there was an AI real estate agent that closed like $200 million worth of real estate. So when you look at things like that, right, different country, different regulations, whatever it is, but when you look at something like that, you start questioning, what is my role in the bigger picture moving forward? Moving forward, I truly believe unless agents get with the program and remember that it's meant to be a relationship business, a people business, what's going to happen to the real estate industry, I truly believe is going to resemble what happened to the travel industry. I really, truly believe that. Travel industry, you go on Priceline.com or whatever the heck the websites are called, and you get cheap flights, cheap hotels, cheap whatever, and there's still like a handful of travel agents left. But do we really need them? Not really. And I think real estate is going in that same direction, and unless people get with the program and kind of bring things back to not be so flashy on social, to not only rely on AI, to really build those connections and maintain those relationships, not just look for their next paycheck, but their next lasting relationship. I think that's what's going to really drive the needle moving forward.
Oh, wow. That's a lot to digest in there.
No,
I have not heard. No, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I have not heard about that. I'm going to actually do a quick research after this call about that AI that closed $200 million of deals.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care what country that's from. Obviously, there's some valuable source of information that lesson in there that could be taken in there. I personally, I'm not into the real estate business. A long time ago, I dabbled into it, but I never fully pursued it. It was kind of something that I tried back in my younger days, but I've never made any financial gains from it. Again, from my little knowledge and experience, I do believe that there is still a place for that human interaction. Again, as you mentioned, for when it comes down for that first-time home buyer, I personally do believe that you still need that human touch that you need to gain for that buyer's trust. And which, yes, of course, I'm sure AI has a place in it to filter out and to weed out what is it that that buyer is looking for. But when it comes down to doing that transactions, I personally do believe you still need to hold the client's hands, because it is a very big decision, in which I'm sure you probably have more experience, that, you can back out in it. One thing we're trying to do here at Algovisa, just to provide a lot of content, just to get a feeling what's going on within the marketplace, because I do believe that tech is rapidly evolving. Here in the United States, we're at the precipice of making big changes as far as, the current president administration, I'm sure you're aware, it wants to make America one of the AI capital of the world and also blockchain technology. I do believe if all those regulation comes through in the next few months, there's a lot of value to be in place as far as tokenization of the real estate markets. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
Yeah, so I'm actually working with a real estate title company.
Mm.
Again, I won't say the name just for, I don't know if they want me to
Yeah,
advertise this or not, but they basically they've brought in smart contracts, they've brought in crypto, they've brought in a few different things which are gonna just facilitate everything.
yeah,
And not just that, it helps for the consumer that is across country lines or across state lines to do
yeah,
things much easier. And I
yes,
think a combination of AI and crypto and all these things that are happening right now really in the world, I think it has the potential to change our industry, really many industries in
yeah,
reality,
yeah,
not necessarily overnight, but in the blink of an eye, if you will. And I think it's very important for us to stay in tune with those things because that's what's going to, again, help drive the needle forward.
yeah,
If someone in the sales industry or service industry doesn't adapt to the current updates or upgrades or whatever you want to call it, or even just the new technologies that are emerging, those are the people that are going to be first left behind. Not
yeah.
necessarily because they lack the customer service aspect of things,
Okay.
simply because they're just phased out. Let's be honest. Someone new
Yeah,
came and is up with the times, and they're really going to move things forward. And I think the U.S. are doing what they're doing and really putting it out to the world, the message to the world. We are going to be the AI capital. Period. I think that has its fingers in all sorts of different industries, and it's going to affect a lot of things. And I think it's a great thing, so
yeah.
long as it's adapted and used properly.
Right, right. Make the business transaction much more efficient. It
Mhm.
definitely sounds we're current project with the title company, just avoid all of those what's the word I'm looking for? The cost of business due to
Sure.
fraud or delays or whatever the cases you might have to deal with. When I'm personally
Well, fraud is a
excited.
big one. Not to cut you off, but fraud is a big one, and
Yeah,
that's something that
yeah,
I've actually experienced last week, and I've experienced multiple times. But someone sent me a text, and the text basically said, "Hey, I have this piece of land in Lake Wales, Lake Wales, Florida, and I want to sell it." Okay, great. So
yeah,
I had a conversation through text back and forth.
yeah,
I found the wording of the text very interesting. It wasn't like a normal, like there's professional verbiage, there's slang verbiage. It was just
yeah,
different, right?
yeah.
And so I explored a little bit, and I kept talking to this text, in this text thread. Eventually, it stopped. And I was like, I'm curious. So we have this tool that we have here in Aura. It's called Forewarn, and it allows us to look at phone numbers and things of that nature. So I looked it up. Turns out it was a VoIP, a VoIP number, so CRM or something of that nature. So then I did a search. I did a skip trace, found the actual landowner's name and number, reached out to the landowner directly myself, and it kind of backfired on me in reality because I reached out to him. I took a screenshot of the conversation, and he's like, "This is BS." And I was like, "Hey, man, I'm just trying to help you. Someone's trying to sell your land. Sell your land." In reality, what they do is they try to get a deposit going.
Wow,
They get things rolling with the title company. They try to sell it quick for cash. Like, I need to close in
wow,
3 days, 4 days, whatever it is. And then
wow,
by the time everybody figures out what happened, it's already too late. So I contacted this guy, and he ended up telling me he was going to report me because he thought I was the one that sent that message.
wow.
But in reality, I say that to say that,
Yeah,
I mean, no good deed goes unpunished, right? But at the same
yeah.
time, we have to be careful of these things. This is happening every day.
It
People
is.
posing as other people, or really AI
Yes,
posing as a
yes,
buyer or as a seller. And we
yes.
really have to be, cognizant of these things, and we have to make sure that we verify things. And that kind of goes back to the service part that I mentioned before, and the accurate information. I think a lot of agents, especially in today's market, they get so desperate that the market is tough because it's been tough for a couple years, right? I've been doing this 10 years full time, and for the past 3 years, it's been getting tough. Last year was tough. This year is getting better, but I would say agents they get an opportunity for a listing or for a buyer, and they fail to verify these things. And with things like deep fakes, AI, and all these things that we're seeing on X and the news and fake videos and all these things, I think it's super important that we also verify everything, even though that's a platform or a medium for us to help our clients. At the same time, it can hurt our clients, and we have to make sure we look at that too.
Yes, yes. That's again another theme that I've heard from another realtor that I spoke with earlier. Scams are becoming a rise, and that's an unfortunate price to pay. As tech is being evolving, it's also being used for bad actors to take advantage of folks that are unable to do their due diligence. And I'm glad that you were actually able to get that ahead of time, and actually, you let this other the owner of that property know that his name was actually being potentially being used in cases of fraud, then, obviously in this country, that's something that could go a very down dark road. Yeah, what I just wanted to mention with the tokenization of real estate, aside from the immutable transactions, able to verify what's the transaction that's able to be done, and also the efficient behind it, what I'm personally very excited is the amount of liquidity you're able to bring in at a faster amount of speed. And also for folks that are looking to invest into a particular market, into a particular type of properties, is able to remove the bureaucracy, and you're able to open up the amount of folks who are able to invest in a specific properties. So instead of limiting towards 1, 2, or 3 clients into specific properties, you're able to end up from 20, 50, or even 100 folks. I'm not sure if you read, there was an article, other markets are much more advanced, but specifically in Saudi Arabia, there's a company, I actually posted on my LinkedIn about 2 weeks ago. They were able to sell a piece of property. I mean, it was nothing crazy. An apartment, a rental property, was able to bring in rate of return investment of, like, I don't remember the numbers, 8% a year, something like that. And they were able to sell off the property in a matter of 2 to 4 hours. You had over 120 folks that were able to provide liquidity, get a piece of that pie. Again, because of the technology, because of tokenization of real estate. And, once regulation comes through, I'm sure there's going to be through cycles that one is going to have to go through that. But that's something I'm personally very excited about. And that should definitely provide a lot of avenues for folks to be able to invest in real estate as well. And it doesn't necessarily have to be for a high institutional or high credit investor, but folks that do not have, the amount of liquidity that they need to. If you're able only to afford $100 a month, $1,000 a month, you're able to do so, because tokenization of real estate will definitely open up that avenue and be able to diversify or just invest in real estate, because if that's something that one is feel very comfortable. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I have a title company that I've worked with that was the first title company to tokenize a property and sell it in Florida. So
Okay.
that one I can say, because it's public, it's Proppy. Those folks, I think, have a wealth of information in terms of, because they're the first ones to do it here in
Okay.
Florida. And I mean, they're also the ones that they also accept crypto, worldwide, these kinds of things that would facilitate things like that. And I think those advances in our industry, I think, are part of what's going to help us grow in the long run. And I think it's going to help take agents and brokerages honestly, across state lines and countries a lot easier, because right now, I can't go advertise in a different place that I'm not licensed, right?
Right.
There's a lot of rules and regulations that go along with that. But if I'm in a marketplace that has access to all these buyers from Saudi Arabia to Michigan to California to Florida, and I have a tokenized property and I put it on this marketplace like this one I'm talking about with Proppy, this buyer can invest in this property, whether it's an investment vehicle or if it's a purchase or a sale or whatever the case is. They can go through this system, and it makes the availability, or at least it gives the opportunity to more people in a wider, right? So I think that tokenizing a property, much like Proppy did, and also incorporating the smart contracts and incorporating the crypto and everything else, I think it's actually going to help us a lot, so long as we employ it properly. I want to talk to my buddy that's in Japan. Does he want to buy a property? Okay, great. We can go use his property, this title company as an example. He can pay with cash or crypto. The seller on the other end can receive cash or crypto, and everything can be done in a matter of, virtually seconds, right?
Yeah.
And I think that it actually opens up a huge opportunity for us as agents, as brokerages, in order to expand our ability to service other people in different parts, not just our local area. And it opens up an opportunity for regular lay people, if you will, or people like us, really, because I'm not worth $100 million, right? I'm not an accredited investor that I can go put 5, 10, $20 million on a piece of property and not blink an eye. So it opens it up for people like us to see something like kind of like buying crypto or buying any sort of stock or anything. Hey, I want to buy point XXX or whatever of this property, and done. All of a sudden you own that property, it becomes virtual. And how many times can that same property be sold and resold, and then you get an investment back, whether it's a return back, a return on your investment. And I think it's the way that we're going. It kind of reminds me of DSTs. So DSTs, Delaware Statutory Trusts, these things that investors or owners, request for people to invest in. And if you have $100, you go through someone who's versed in DST, and I have a contact for that. But you go through them, they take your whatever you can do, 200, 300, 1,000, 2,000, and they put it towards this DST. They tell you what you're going to make, how much you're going to make, and then you get a return back when you pull your money out. And I think that model, if they tokenize that model and they tokenize that property and they incorporate the crypto and everything else along with it, I think, the moon's the limit at that point. And I think that's good news for everybody. Again, so long as we employ it and we inform the public, because it goes back to being properly educated and informed. And in a world of information, we're drowning for wisdom, right? And I think that's the most important thing. Is all these vehicles sound great in practice and they sound great in theory, but unless we meet the consumer where they're at, they're never going to be used and they're not going to be beneficial for them. And then what, right? Where do we go from there?
Excellent. Yes. Very, very insightful. Yeah, well, excellent. Thank you so much here, Peter, for all the wealth of information that you have shared with us here. Where can viewers find you and get in contact with you?
Yeah, so my website eventually, right now it's down, it's getting redone. But when it comes back up, it's vectorpropgroup.com. I have my phone number is 407-308-4518. My email, peter@vectorpropgroup.com. And then on social, I have @BrokerRod, which is my business page on IG, and then @Broker, which is my business page on Facebook. Really, the easiest way to contact me is by texting me or calling me. I answer my own phone calls. I don't, if I don't answer because I'm with someone, I don't just, some agents put it off to like an assistant or whatever, and that has its place, sure, but I try to return all my own phone calls. So if you contact me, whether it's email, text, or call, I'll be the one to answer.
Excellent. And any type of properties that you focus on? Like, do you have any specialty, commercial, residential?
Yeah, so I do residential and commercial. I'm working on a big commercial now, kind of an NDA sign, but it's a school in the Central Florida area. And then I've done residential for 10 years, commercial for about 4. So I kind of go the gamut. I basically, I try to be as resourceful as I can. I'm not going to say I'm an expert at commercial because commercial, there's a lot in commercial. So I approach that with a grain of, with some caution in the back of the firm that I will, but I'm not afraid to go into some commercial or residential. You're welcome.